Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. It's clobbering time, and tonight's battle royale is Viltrumites versus Kryptonians. And see that there's already controversy in the chats, but as normal, filibuster a bit until people wind down. So, Marcus, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
First off, this is an open invite stream, meaning anybody could click this and pop in. I always say I try to keep it to about 4 people, but it's never been a problem yet.
I don't know if you could see this because I draw in blue. Just to turn off the light. I don't know. Okay, kind of see it.
I see boobs.
Just the top panel. The other ones are.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my thought. Yeah, that's her boobs. There you go. That's good enough.
That's all. What else do you need to draw?
So I was having her, and she's gonna, you don't have her face yet, crying or whatever you had written, ripped shirt, and in the foreground, a big Will Eisner, like street sign that has on top. It'll say by John Boo, and then
cool
logo, and then maybe if my name is so damn long that it doesn't fit when I do these.
Right. I got a nice short name.
That's really aggravating.
I could put my whole name on a license plate,
Yeah. So that you asked me what I did. It's just as hard to show. And when I want to draw that bigger, and then I draw everything in blue, so it doesn't smudge too bad.
Okay.
And then if it's dark enough, then I'll put this from regular paper onto the Bristol paper and really finish it off. This way, it could be loosey goosey, And I have ideas for obviously she hails a taxi, but I want her to do a certain way. I don't want to just hail a taxi. She's sexy. She's going to be hailing, flip of her wrist or something,
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Marcus is writing a script for me. The public eye character. The name of the series is going to be called I Love a Mystery, and the 2 main characters are the public eye and Poinsettia. And I'm just filibustering, and I will bring in. This is.
And then I have some ideas. It's going to be like one panel at a time, because I don't want, like you were talking to Dillard, like I don't want to do halves. He says a lot of the same things that I think, and I don't want to do everything by half. So what's the right type of cab? What's the, you know what I mean? Is it going to look like an Impala? Is it going to look like the cab from the 50s? Like my friend used to have a car. Remember those big fat cabs? He used to be in New York City?
Yeah.
My friend had one. His family used to own those.
Well, it's got to look like retrofuturism, because that's the aesthetic.
Right. I kind of feel like that. Almost there's a kind of style there that came up that kind of look, and how do they hang out? I don't want it to look like the backgrounds are important in the first page,
Right. That sets the setting. So
right. So you asked me earlier about that, and I just didn't. I was driving. I couldn't think. I'm always driving.
We got Logic's finest. He's the one who suggested this. We got an. I was kind of hoping to wait till we got like a few more people, but already they say Mon-El isn't a Kryptonian. Mon-El is a Daxamite, not a Kryptonian. Yeah, but Daxamites are Kryptonians went out and colonized Daxam and became Dax. Yeah, they evolved a little bit so that they have a weakness to lead instead of kryptonite,
which is like a really dumb weakness.
Yeah, which is really dumb weakness. It just makes.
I love Mon-El.
Yeah, but Mon-El only works because he has the serum from Brainiac 5, so that he's not.
I really liked Mon-El because he's one of those characters. He had that neat costume, that blue and red. I know that seems cheesy now, but to me, and you never heard of him. It's like liking Wonder Man. Oh, I love Wonder Man because he was never around.
Well, he was the opposite of Superman's colors. You know what I mean? He had the blue.
Right. Cape. I liked him. Yeah.
And then he had Shadowlass as a girlfriend. Who didn't like that?
Who didn't like that? Yeah.
Yeah. So Logic, your mic is off. If you want to join us, turn your mic. Okay.
Hey, gents.
So first question, Old Dirty Fatty, what car is that?
That is an Alpine 110. That's at the Nürburgring, specifically going across the Breitscheid Bridge.
Okay. So yeah, I picked Mon-El knowing that he's a Daxamite, because to me it's like one half for one half for the others, and I didn't want to put Superman because if you pick Superman, to me that peppers the discussion as Superman versus Omni-Man. I was trying to make it just the average Kryptonian, and if I took like just a crowd shot of a Kryptonian from a 40s comic, nobody. So I picked Mon-El because I specifically didn't want Superman.
Well, when I think of the Kryptonians, I think of the Wayne Boring Kryptonian with the band on the hand and Jor-El's wearing green.
Yeah, with the sun.
Yeah, that's what I think of. Kurt Swan,
Yeah.
I know they've expanded them and they've all come to Earth and they all become Superman, and he has a whole crew of super people now instead of just him, which sort of ruins everything.
So before we start the main event, what do you guys think of Zack Snyder's plans that the Amazonians were like descendants of Kryptonians that came in the past?
No, I don't like that.
You don't like that? Logic, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I am absolutely not a huge fan of that. It's all right. To me, it's like, first off, before we even get started, John, good evening. Marcus, how are you? Both of you gents are absolute legends.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And and this is the first time you've actually been on the show rather than just in the comments. So welcome. You comment so much, I just accepted you as a regular. You know what I mean? I apologize. Rocky Finest is finally on the show for the first time. So there you go. This is his first appearance. Everybody collect this if you can possibly collect it.
I have my super rough sketch of Power Girl.
Yep.
Awesome. Marcus, that is awesome.
You always ask, and I said, this does kind of look, this is drawn before Sydney Sweeney, but I guess it kind of looks like that.
I'm just going to fill up my coffee cup because I didn't have time because I stayed over time. But go ahead, Logic. I could hear you. My coffee cup is just on the other side of the screen.
I think that Sydney Sweeney, by definition, looks like Power Girl. So there's that.
She does. Yeah. I mean, but I absolutely want Sydney Sweeney as Power Girl, but everything in Hollywood is so woke, and it's like it's anti-feminine. It's like they want women to be hard and masculine.
I know, it's so bad.
Sexy women.
It's so bad. And so when I'm drawing now, and you'll see on the studio, if we draw a woman, it's extra. Like I draw Lady Death, and she's extra big hips, extra big, because it's like against everything they do.
Right.
Right. Like I find myself, you tell me like 5 years ago, I wouldn't, unless it's Power Girl, of course, because she's like, I would just draw the nice athletic body with a great body and everything. Now I find myself exaggerating everything.
Right.
Like exactly. Wally Wood. That's the whole origin of Power Girl. Is he was told to draw women more dainty, and every time he drew her, it was like he inflated her boobs just to see how far he could get away with it before he got caught. I think that's funny.
It is funny.
It is.
That's very Wally Wood too.
And that's if I may be a little, the character of Poinsettia, her body is kind of the cause of a lot of her problems because she's va 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 boom. You know what I mean? And she attracts a lot of the wrong guys, and that's one of the reasons you'll see. That's one of the reasons why she likes the public eye. Is he's like, she thinks he's being respectful, but he's just so out of his mind he doesn't realize that she likes him. You know what I mean?
I like that. That's funny.
Yeah. I love that whole old comic book tradition of the women like loving the superheroes and the superheroes like leaving because they're too wholesome. So like the patriarch, the Regina throws herself at him, but he's happily married. That's a legitimate reason not to.
It's like
public eye
is crazy. Has tried so.
What's that? I'm sorry, I was talking. Logic. We were talking at the same time. I didn't hear what you said. Did we lose Logic? Well, the public eye is he crazy, or does he really see these things that he says that he sees? So sometimes he sees the big picture that he misses the forest for the trees.
I'm telling you that I was telling you a little about that forum, and that forum has been around like almost 20 years. 2012, it was offshoot of a John Byrne forum, because John Byrne, as you know, because you were on it, was so nasty to everybody. They all created a forum to be anti-John Byrne. And they loved John Byrne enough that they were burnt. And now they still have a big thread, and they all say the same thing. It doesn't matter anymore, but it's all pop culture. It's music, it's punk music, and the leader of it's a huge Ditko fan. So Ditko always comes up. I said, wow. So I post my artwork. I do so much artwork now, I can't even catch up. But I used to post all my artwork. I hosted these people at my house one time, like 10 years ago.
Oh, cool.
So that's how close I was to them. It's like knowing you guys, like meeting you in Jersey or something.
Oh, Logic.
Yeah.
I think
Maybe he'll come back.
Yeah, I think.
So when I say that, like I think that if I'm in the book, I did post your stuff over there, and I'll continue to. And maybe there's one guy I know who does crowdfunding. I bought some. I think that Sylvester Stallone book Zach did on. Well, I don't know what the hell he does with his books, but So, but I could eventually sell some, maybe. So, I will always put them over there.
It's funny that for those of you who don't know what Mark's talking about, John Byrne, the comic book artist and writer, he has a forum called Byrne Robotics, and it's still active to this day.
Yeah.
But he is such what's a cantankerous old man? Is that a good word?
He is beyond a curmudgeon.
Yeah, Beyond Curmudgeon.
Very
There's another comic me and Marcus are working on, Beyond Curmudgeon.
These people loved him, and he runs you off. Like Andy Smith was on there for one day, banned. Neil Adams, banned. Like you say one thing, and Byrne just banned you. I never got banned, but I didn't. I just did artwork there. I didn't really bother.
I made an account, but I never posted because I'm like, if I get banned by John Byrne, I'm gonna have to hate him, and I don't want to hate.
That's what happened to these people. That's honestly true. That's exactly what happened. And they denigrate. Like he put that. Well, he started drawing that X-Men book on the side there. That Marvel wasn't printing elsewhere.
Right.
And he did all this wonderful artwork. And I'm looking at this guy is 70 years old. And he's just whipping these pages out. Like he's done. He's posting them one a day, but he's doing like John Byrne 3 a day. And these people would pick, that Pinky's no good. And the story didn't end. No, the story didn't end right here or there. But he knew that. It was just for him to goof around, right? And they were killing it. And I'm like, guys, now that's a step too far. But they hate him. They really hate him. It's kind of like X, except it happens faster.
Yeah. So I stay away from Byrne Robotics. Although every once in a while I go there and I email him and to ask him to come on my channel. You don't get what you don't ask for. He'll never do it. But
you're looking around and trying to solve a panel to do, and then you're looking at different things, and then you just see a Byrne. Oh, he figured it out. Like he's figured everything out. Comics is easy to John Byrne. To the rest of us, it's really difficult. To him, it's easy.
Chuck Dixon always says that comics are in his DNA. He was born to write. I believe that John Byrne comics are in his DNA. Like,
Yeah, I think so.
I think like Kurt. Like, there's a couple of people that are just like generational watersheds of comics. Kirby was the first one to me, but now the more you're posting Matt Baker, oh my God, am I loving that Matt Baker artwork?
He's unbelievable. He did all sorts of comics too. He didn't just, and he worked for everybody. Wait till you see him inked by Vin Coletta.
Oh my God! I have one Matt Baker book that I'm aware of, and it's a black and white reprint of It Rhymes with Lust or Rhymes with Rust, and it's a soap opera. It's kind of cool.
Oh no, I'm going to post that cover. It's just not that exciting, but that's
so that's how I knew him. But I like
graphic novel.
Because they said it was like the first graphic novel, so
it might be the first graphic novel,
and it's okay. It's not bad. The art is fun, but seeing those color romance, oh my God!
That was all for St. John's Publishing too. That was like that guy was employing Joe Kubert at the same time. In New York,
You said he died young.
He was 50, yeah.
Oh, 50. I thought he died even
49 or something.
And the other one is Manly. Like I always heard Manly, and I got a lot of the pre-Marvel like Atlas comics. That guy died. What was he like? 28 or something like that.
He was really young. He died between subway cars.
No, he was on the Long Island Railroad.
Long Island, that's right. Metro North.
He went between the Long Island Railroad.
He's right. He fell.
He fell and died. And
There's rumors that maybe he was drinking too much. All those guys, tied one on at the end of the day.
Probably.
If he wasn't around, there was a good chance that Stan Lee wouldn't have needed Kirby because he was super fast and he could draw anything.
Yeah. So, all right, we got a bunch of people watch. Logic, everything okay? I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. How do I sound now?
You sound okay. You look like a car, though.
You're like
All right. if anybody watches the show, you know that Marcus and I usually filibuster a bit until people. I don't want to start doing the whole big thing, and then people are like, "What did you say? I missed it."
No, that happens all the time. Yeah.
That happens all the time. So we'll start now. So yes, I saw these comments. Mon-El is a Daxamite. I just wanted to get somebody that was not Superman to represent Kryptonians. Oh, while I was getting coffee, you were talking about Sydney Sweeney as Power Girl. My thoughts on this is the woman who's playing Supergirl now. I think she's perfect. To me, Supergirl is cute, girly, and wholesome, and then Power Girl is the the opposite of that. The reaction to that. So I really hope, man, if I was in charge of DC Comics, I would be like, Sydney, sign this contract because you were in the sequel to the Supergirl movie.
That CW show really ended up to be not very good, but Melissa Benoist was a good Supergirl.
Yeah, I remember watching I think I watched the first 3 episodes, and I was raving about how good it was. Like, they brought in the Hell Grommet in like issue.
Well, the first season of CBS was pretty good, but when I went to the CW, it got professionally woker every single season.
Right.
And then she was like getting to be a girl boss. She was arguing with people that were going against Trump. I mean, it was like all of them. The Flash and Arrow were the best ones, and then Legends of DC. That was just crazy. The Legends just became so crazy that you just went with it. It didn't matter what they did. So at least I appreciated that.
I remember watching it with my wife, and I'm just like, Hell Grommet, and Hell Grommet is a real goofy character, and they just put it in the TV show, and just accepted it. They didn't wink at the camera like, we know this is bad. They just ran with it, and I was like, this is going to be great. And I think around that, because I bought the DVD after a couple of seasons, and then people just like, oh, it turned woke and whatever, and it just soured me.
It still was a good looking show, but it turned up there was a woman president. She was an alien.
Yeah, so maybe I'll finish the
like I have to finish Flash. Flash got really hard to finish. Arrow, because same thing. His wife Iris became a girl boss, and he was too powerful. The Flash was way too powerful, so he had to sit there and talk to the bad guy and try to talk him down. And then somebody hit him in the back of the head because he could just take care of everything in 35 seconds. They did Speed Force, and they made him. It's so powerful that there's nothing he could do.
Speed Force is one of DC's biggest mistakes.
I think, it's one of those things that seemed like a good idea when it started, and then it just blew out of proportion.
It should never be Speed Force. Like, is there a Strength Force? Is there an Intelligence Force? Like,
what I like about
it
was well cast. Well, the Flash was well cast.
I like the Green Lantern that they took other spectrums of light and made cores out of it. To me, that was a lot. So to me, if there's a Speed Force, why would there just be a force that gives super speed? To me, there would be a force for every superpower. Like, there would be a Strength Force. So either don't open that door or open that door and run with it. In DC, there has to be
right. I see what you mean about that. That makes sense.
The endurance.
I understand that.
But whatever. But anyway, let's get this show on the road. Logic, you're the new guy here. So there is my protocol is I always let the new guy talk first. So what would you like to talk about? Viltrumites or Kryptonians?
Okay, well, when I first thought this up, right, my thing wasn't really so much as Kryptonians versus Viltrumites. My thing was from the standpoint of just straight character development. I think that he did something that no one has been able to do for decades. As far as character development, he built a better Kryptonian. They have all of their strengths, flight, speed, endurance. They have super sight. They can't see through things, but they can see things far away, and they can hear things. But of course, they don't have heat vision, and they can hold their breath for 3 weeks straight if they're in space. And every fight, the more physical damage they take in the fight, they come back stronger after they recover. So if they get beat up, they'll come back slightly stronger. If they get put in a coma for say months and months and months and months, they come back exponentially stronger. And there's absolutely no limit to that. And on top of all of that, Viltrumites live for thousands of years. So the Kryptonians were adapted, right? They only had their powers under a yellow sun. Viltrumites have their powers no matter where they go. So of course they have a galactic empire. So my thinking was, and my opinion, from a position of straight character development, I think he built a better Kryptonian. Now, I don't necessarily get into the whole Viltrumites versus Kryptonians because I understand we all love Superman. I love Superman. I love
Yeah.
Kryptonians.
That's
But
why I steered it away from Superman. Yeah,
right.
that
But
brings
if
a
we're
whole
talking
other aspect. Yeah,
exactly, so if we're talking Kryptonians as a race versus Viltrumites as a race, I think the Viltrumites win 9 out of 10 times, because the only way Kryptonians win is if the fight takes place under a yellow sun, and Kryptonians don't get powers when they're immediately exposed to a yellow sun. It takes time. Look at every time that General Zod fights Superman. He fights him to a standstill because he's a better hand-to-hand combatant, but he has far less power. The Viltrumites have, but that's those are just my thoughts. What do you think?
I don't disagree with anything you said. I think you and I might have gone at it, in a friendly way in the chats before when I talk about Kryptonians.
Right.
But first off, I want to say Robert Kirkman. I'm an unabashed Robert Kirkman fanboy, so consider the source. I'm also Superman is my favorite character, so this is a fun topic because I'm taking Robert Kirkman, with the exception of what was the name of that comic, Battle Pope. Everything he writes is really brilliant, really good, and he really thinks things out. He did a comic called Werewolf, or Wolfman rather, and he just took a horror concept, a werewolf, and then he's pretending to be a superhero so that monster hunters don't kill him. But he has all the traditional werewolf weaknesses and strengths, and he incorporates it. And I thought it was brilliant. So when he made Viltrumites, like you said, he built a better Kryptonian. I 100% agree with you. The reason why I say that is my logical problem with Kryptonians, and everybody tells me I'm wrong, but this is my hill to die on. I'm not giving this up. Kryptonians are a flawed concept because they have this awesome power. They're God everywhere except where they're born and raised and evolved. Like crabs don't develop. Crabs never evolved the ability to shoot laser beams in the vacuum of space. Or, you know what I mean? Because why would they have this? So why did Kryptonians develop whatever these super powers everywhere else? And not everywhere. I'm exaggerating for comedy purposes. But they develop powers except where they are. So to me, logically, Kryptonians had to have come from someplace else. And the only way they ended up on Krypton, like, again, everybody tells me I'm wrong, and that's fine. I'm not going to get mad at that. But to me, Kryptonians had to have evolved someplace else, and they were punished by putting on Krypton. We put them in the one place where they can't cause any more damn trouble. And maybe they were from it's so far in the past that they're ashamed of it, or they forgot about it, or whatever, or this cosmic cataclysm caused a collapse of society, so they really don't know their past. I don't know, but I don't know if DC would be willing to do that. But
Okay,
to me,
can I add this, John?
I was just riffing on this. So
Listen,
let me just finish my thought, then you can talk all you want. But so Kryptonians are just humans, except so Viltrumites, they're gods everywhere they go. They evolved. Like, I don't know, I read Invincible, but somewhere in the past of Viltrum, there must have been like a rival species that was just a horror, and they evolved to adapt to that horrible species, or you know what I mean? And then like the past, like the prehistoric times on Viltrum, that is a comic that needs to come out. That is just fascinating.
I have to read it.
And then these people, just like you said, there's only 150 of them left because they're just this warlike. Like the Viltrumites are Spartans, whereas the Kryptonians are Athenians, if I may be historically geeky. And End thought. So get ahead, Logic. What do you think? I know you're one of the people that takes me up on my philosophies of Krypton.
Well, okay. Well, of course, I slightly disagree with the Kryptonians had to evolve
That's fine. This is its
one.
clobbering time. You could tell me I'm
Right.
wrong.
No. I'm not. I'm not. I am absolutely not here to fight. Not at all. But um, there was a book. I don't know if you have it. It's actually a graphic novel, so it's like a collective of works. Anyway, it tells the history of Doomsday. And so in that graphic novel, it says that the planet Krypton was the harshest environment in the entire galaxy, as
Oh,
far as the
okay.
gravity, the temperature, the heat, the atmosphere. Anything that evolved, any life that evolved on that planet was genetically the strongest in the entire galaxy. So the only humanoids that eventually evolved on that planet were the Kryptonians. So they
That's interesting.
evolved and they were adapted to their planet. However, by the time that the humanoids or the Kryptonians they evolved, their sun was already a red sun. So they were genetically adapted to their red sun. So that's the explanation as to why they only have powers under a yellow sun, but not on their planet. Now again, I'm just I'm just repeating what's in that graphic novel, the story of Doomsday.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
I don't,
Like
I'm sorry, again.
we all know the meta reasons, the real world reasons of like kryptonite and everything like that, because Superman became so powerful that they needed some sort of weakness to add drama. Like
Or the radio guy, the guy playing him on radio was sick for a week, and they needed to have a reason why Superman wasn't on the show. So they had to create kryptonite so that Superman was sick, so he can't be on the show this week.
first off,
I mean, Superman, the way they prevent, like Robert Kirkman come up and say, "Here's Superman, and here's the Viltrumites, and here's Omni-Man and Invincible," and I don't know that much about them because I haven't read it, and not that I didn't think it's awful, I just haven't read it. I'm not passing judgment on it. It looks great. It's just like I have to get used to that level of violence for superheroes to me, which I think I'm ready now at this age. Anyway, so he could say, I can jettison this weird thing about Kryptonians. I could jettison this one. I can put the best things into the Viltrumites, into Omni-Man. Whereas Superman started in 1938, where he could just jump and just like being, bullets and lifting a car was just all he could do. That was as super as anybody could think.
right.
And he got more powerful and more as they added on. Like Superman of the 60s, like the Kurt Swan 1965 Wayne Boring, and Superman's moving the planet back into its with his pinky. That Superman is really powerful, like way more powerful than say the John Byrne Superman or even the Kurt Swan and Superman of the 70s when they have these powers. And there's also several Supermen. There's a Superman that's that's the one that's super strong, and then that's the one that's less powerful in the Justice League. Because why do you need a Justice League if you have a Superman?
Right. If he's faster than
play him off, and
what good is the Flash when Superman's faster?
Right.
No, he's
exactly.
not. No, he's not. The Flash is faster.
So,
well, he is now.
The perfection of the Kryptonians is the if I'm pronouncing it right, the Viltrumites, right? That could be because you're talking 65, 75, 85 years of all sorts of crazy people working on it,
Yeah. I lost my train of thought. Logic, what were you going to say? I'm way off today for whatever reason.
Get more coffee.
No worries, John. No worries. No worries. I was just saying, listen, my point of view was not so much can this Viltrumite beat Superman. My thing was strictly from the point of character development. I think that Kirkman built a better Kryptonian because they have all of their strengths. They're more powerful, they can get exponentially more powerful with with every with every fight that causes major damage. Okay, so since they're all powerful as a species, they created an oppressive galactic empire. So from a
Right.
position of straight character development, he built a better character. You have much
I
more
agree with
as
you
a
in
writer, as
that
a
Right, right,
aspect.
right.
I would wonder
right.
if we got like 25 people watching. I wonder if anybody would disagree with you. Like Robert Kirkman really did take a logical Kryptonian and extend it into the Viltrumite.
Right. That's exactly what. Yeah, in my long-winded way.
Like he
Right. Yeah,
he
that's
he jettisoned all the goofy stuff. Like, all right, Superman, the X-ray vision, the heat vision, the super hearing and all that stuff, the super breath. You know, 9 times out of 10, when you read Superman, he doesn't use any of those powers. Maybe the X-ray vision, maybe the heat vision.
Using the heat vision sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
heat
more
vision
powerful
probably the
character.
most secondary. But like Superman is a fast, strong, flying, invulnerable guy. That's what makes him super. Everything else is, I don't want to say superfluous, but it's like kind of extra. So to have these fast, flying, strong, invulnerable space race, and then there's no weakness. And then to me, my two of my favorite things about the Viltrumites is if you don't kill them, they come back stronger. That is awesome. That's like a horror movie. Like Marcus, you were saying that you're not ready for the violence. I love Invincible, and yes, it's violent, and yes, it's gory, but it's not nihilistic like The Boys. It's not just
Yeah, the boys I've seen.
The
Yeah.
Boys kind of gives me a bad feeling in my stomach. It's the
No, I
Boys.
don't disagree with you. I just
The Boys. Garth Ennis wrote The Boys because he hates superheroes. So that
think so.
comic is born out of
Think so,
negativity.
really?
Yeah,
he likes
Garth-
war comics.
Okay. Okay.
but Robert Kirkman loves comics and loves superheroes. Like, so, like it or not, even though there's violence in Invincible,
Well, it's it's realistic. You can't. It's Robert Kirkman taking that next step. Like what would really be happening if they're beating each other? Well, their jaws would break, their arms would get ripped off. It isn't. I mean, they started kind of doing like Superboy Prime did that to people, and he obliterated head. And it's good that he used Invincible and didn't do it with Superman. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's the positive. Like I want to do Superman my way, or Spider-Man cross with Superman my way, and he created Invincible. So now he can do what he wants. He's not held back
yes,
by Marvel and DC.
he made his own character and then did what he wanted with his own character.
I appreciate
People in
that.
Marvel could learn from Robert Kirkman.
I
Right?
just haven't had time. There was a point where I was taking all these. I wasn't buying comics, but I would trade paperbacks and hardcovers out of the library and read them, like Court of Owls and Bendis Avengers comics. I like the artwork, I didn't like it was crazy. Different Civil War stuff, all these different, the Captain America, Winter Soldier saga. And one of them, I was going to always get Invincible. And then I would flip through it and find something, you know what I mean? I would always flip through it.
Invincible's really good. And I didn't watch the second season of the show yet. I really liked the first season. I will say this, guys. The most shocking stuff didn't happen yet. It as shocking as the show is, the most shocking stuff didn't happen yet. I'd also like to point out Brian Christow is in the chat. Brian Christow does a great book, Six Gun Gorilla. That was part of its Clobbering Time a couple weeks ago. Brian, if you want to pop in and give us your thoughts, I always like what you say. We got Matt Bauer in the house. Matt just he does a page in all of my comics so far.
Matt created It's Clobbering Time.
Right.
I replaced Matt, but I'm not as controversial.
Right. That's
not as exciting as Matt. Look at this.
You reminded me. I forgot about that. Yeah. We came up with the idea of It's Clobbering Time while Matt was a guest on my. He's always welcome to come on and talk. This is the kind of fighting I like, Matt. And so
I'm sure that's what you'd like to.
But I said there was two things that I really like about Viltrumites. First off, if you don't beat them, they get stronger. Like kind of like they adapt. But they don't adapt in laser beams and stuff like that. They physically get more invulnerable and stronger. Like they don't have the same energy powers as a crypto. The other thing, and this is so creepy and it's so brilliant, that they could breed with anything. That's how that's one of the ways that first they come in and they slaughter, and then they breed. And they mate, like in later on in the comics. Spoiler: the father mates with this like horrible insect creature, and he has a little horrible insect creature kid. But that kid, as he gets older, he gets more and more Viltrumite till the point where he's, you know what I mean? Like the
what made
Viltrumite
him want to mate with an ugly insect thingy?
Because they're aliens. Ultimately, the Viltrumites are aliens. Omni-Man says, and it's really heartbreaking. Why can't I remember his name? The character's name, Invincible's real superhero, Mark Grayson. He says to him, "Your mother's just an alien to me. She's just a pet. You know, she's gonna die in a couple of years." She goes, "You got to ascend past this concept of humanity. You're a Viltrumite. These are toys that we play with, and they die, and then we get another one, and we move on. You know." And
I see. So when they don't say if Superman mates with Lois, and that could never happen, Man of Steel, Woman of Tissue.
I think it could happen.
Larry Niven wrote
one of my headcanons that the Kryptonians and the humans have to be related.
Right.
That's
but,
just
so the idea is that Superman's son would not be as powerful as he is because Lois has no powers. But Omni-Man, all of his sons eventually get as powerful as he is no matter what.
Right. Eventually.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't do that.
I'm not sure if I made this up or if it was in the book, but also the Viltrumites, when they breed with other races, they kind of take the best. Kind of like the aliens, what do they call it? The gene splicer. It'll take like the best traits of whatever it is. And then, so like, I do think that one of the things that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, did I dream this or did I read it in the comic? That the Viltrumites will selectively breed with aliens because there's a trait in that alien that they want.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
that's not quite accurate, John.
It's not quite accurate. Okay, so
right. So
disregard, please.
No, close though, close. You're really close. Viltrumite DNA is so powerful that it overwrites the DNA of any other race that they breed with. So no matter what that race looks like, over time, that child will actually physically change and morph to look like a humanoid Viltrumite. Now, all of the best attributes of a Viltrumite will manifest in that hybrid child. So Viltrumites are basically impervious to all diseases, all organisms in the entire galaxy. They live for like 5,000 or 6,000 years. All of those attributes, because their DNA is so powerful and it's so dense, it takes over into that hybrid child.
Yes.
Now, listen. Let me say this. Maybe let me say this in a different way. Imagine if the Kryptonians had their powers on every planet. And imagine if the Kryptonians lived for 5,000 years or 6,000 or 7,000 years. Imagine if they used their powers and they created an actual empire. And imagine if after every fight, they become stronger to the point that as a species, the leader of their race is physically the strongest of their race because they value strength above all else. And that's who the Viltrumites are. So just strictly from a character development point is my point. I think that Kirkman built a better Kryptonian. Now, the whole argument of who would win in a fight, I don't necessarily want to get into that because people have emotional.
Oh, we're getting into it. That's what this is about.
Oh, okay. Okay. Scratch that then.
Yeah, but I agree with you. To me, Viltrumites make more sense than Kryptonians.
Yes.
I think Kryptonians were made in a time where comic books were for kids and it didn't, logical consequences. Who cared? Garner Fox would Julia Schwartz would contradict themselves sometimes within the same issue because who cared? There was no continuity. The status quo was restarted at the beginning of every comic. But I do find Viltrumites fascinating, and yes, they're horrible people. I wouldn't want to grow up on Viltrum. I'd rather grow up on Krypton. If anybody here in the chat would rather grow up in Viltrum, you know,
I would.
you're a war.
I would absolutely want to
Do you
grow up
think you would
on
survive though? They
Viltrum.
would, you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely, because they are Viltrumites are the ultimate expression of survival of the fittest.
right.
They're
But like
literally
Eric
the
says right here,
ultimate expression.
they'll kill their own children. You know what I mean? Like we all think like, oh, in the zombie apocalypse movie, we're going to be the guy with the gun fighting hordes of zombies. Realistically, we're going to be the third zombie on the left. You know what I mean? Like, are we going to be
I agree with that.
Are we going to
That's
be the
not
child that survives the culling?
That's also not necessarily true, though. The Viltrumite Empire had a rule of a Viltrumite soldier could not breed with a woman of another species unless the ruling council allowed it. If you did that, that child did not, if you did that against the council's wishes, they may or may not murder that child because any species who a Viltrumite breeds with, they always generate powers. Always.
Right. Yeah. So the Viltrumites, like I said, they're like, I'm trying to think of like an Earth culture that would most resemble like Mongolians, like what these guys were built for war. You know, they conquer. They value conquest and just and you know. Whereas the Kryptonians, yeah, I know Krypton is you know, they've been writing it since the late 30s and it changes all the time. But for the most part, the average Kryptonian wasn't a fighter, wasn't a war. They were more philosophers. Right. You know what I mean? They weren't into battle. Yeah, they were Spartans. You know, 50 Viltrumites versus the average 50 Viltrumites versus the average 50 Kryptonians. First off, the Kryptonians are regular humans, you know, where they live. You know, these guys train for war. Like if you took 50 Spartans and just put them against 50 Athenians, I don't think these Athenians have a chance. You know, is that fair to say? You know, how many warriors did you bring? What is your profession? I'm a baker. What is your profession? I'm a potter. And Spartans, what is your profession? Whoa, you know, from 300. and then there's Zod. Yes. That's what makes Zod a good villain, is he goes against the mores of Krypton.
The Kryptonians also have a second weakness. Like we all know Kryptonite, but Kryptonians do have a second weakness. Put any Kryptonite under a red sun, he loses his powers.
Right.
Viltrumites never lose their powers. Again, correct. I'm just saying strictly from a character development standpoint.
Well,
Kirkman built
I don't want to say strictly from a character standpoint, because obviously Superman's more, you know, lasted the test of time. Like in 60, 70 years, right, people can remember Omni-Man or Invincible. So like
only time will tell.
Right. Only time will tell. Yes. So we can't say that strictly speaking, it's a better character. But I also want to say this: making a super powerful, unbeatable character, to me, is not the best. It works because it's Robert Kirkman, and Robert Kirkman is a skilled. Like I've been on channels, and I'm not mentioning names, where people get mad at me because like, who would win in a fight, Spider-Man or the Patriarch? And I'm like, I think Spider-Man would kick the Patriarch's ass. And they're like, why do you keep saying that this guy would beat your character? Like just today, I was in the chat with Paul Thayer, who was doing a project analysis, and he was like, who could beat his character Crimson Pain? And I said Crimson Pain would slaughter the Patriarch in seconds, because to me, strength isn't the best character in the world. Like interesting is the best. Like somebody in the chat says, "Oh, my character, when I make my comic book, he's the most powerful, and he could beat your character. He could beat the Hulk. He could beat Superman." And I was like, yeah, but that sounds boring.
That's interesting.
You know, that sounds boring. Is your character interesting? Like I literally have a character, Captain Atlas, that you'll see. Captain Atlas, if he was of the mind to do it, he could one-shot a Viltrumite. Now that sounds like I'm being a child making that powerful, but wait till you see his weakness. Wait till you see his story. That's what makes him interesting. The fact that he's so powerful combined with his weakness is what's going to make him interesting. I'm hoping, if I do it right. But you know what I mean? Like, you know, like the Beyonder was kind of an interesting character until Secret Wars 2, and then he just became like this wish fulfillment magic man who just did all this silly thing. Like Beyonder was good because he was rare. He his whole reason of existence is the fact that he's the most powerful being, but and then you put him away and never bring him back again. But like I don't know,
John.
I'm sorry,
what, John?
Sure,
John. I agree with you 1000%. I really loved Secret Wars. Secret Wars 2, it's like they just totally stripped down and watered down the Beyonder. It's like you humanize them. Like I don't want the Beyonder humanized ever.
Right.
I didn't like that.
The Kryptonians were the ultimate scientists. There's literally a science council with a dozen members and Sophie Campbell's brand new Supergirl #1. That's good. It's good. I heard that DC's turning a corner and it's getting good again. So good on that. Hale, Marcus, Logic, and John. I think location is very important. Yes, we still didn't get to the main spectacle of the fight. Viltrumites stay stable. Guapo Krandorians are no threat. They currently can't even enlarge. Yeah, just think of like a microscopic swarm of Supermans. That actually is pretty terrifying. We have to set the rules. Absolutely, we got to set the rules.
We didn't get that. Yeah.
We didn't get there yet. Exactly.
Well, I think what we're forgetting about the Kryptonians, the environment, is that they can get supercharged in the yellow sun.
Right.
Superman can actually get stronger, and he doesn't because he just stays on Earth. But if he sat there and took a nap on the sun for 8 hours, he gets supercharged. We've seen that before, and he could be way more powerful than anybody.
Right. One of the things...
I mean, there has to be a choice to do that.
Logic keeps bringing up that, like, the Viltrumites lived for thousands of years, but Superman is going to live forever as long as he's being irradiated by this radiation. Like, I don't know. Kryptonians on Krypton, do they have a normal human lifespan? I always just assumed that they lived like humanoids, that they lived 500, 600 years, but I don't know. But the other thing I like about Krypton is John Byrne. When he took over Superman, I like that he took away this magic rock. Kryptonite wasn't the element. It was the radiation from the kryptonite that was dangerous. And I think he explained it just like humans thrive under oxygen, but if we get carbon dioxide bonds to our cells faster than oxygen, and it deprives.
That stuck too. That radiation stuck too.
Right.
I think that absolutely stuck.
So Lex Luthor started to develop K radiation.
He lost his hand.
I love that.
It makes sense, right? Because he's wearing this ring. It's radiation.
Now, so I don't know. I do like Superman. Like again, unless they explained it since I stopped reading, but it just drives me nuts that they evolved a power that they can't possibly use in their home environment. Yeah. So, anything we need to cover before we get into the main event? Kandorians are a massive threat. Imagine an indestructible being at a tiny size. Yeah. Do Kandorians have superpowers? I thought they lived under a Kryptonian environment in the bottle city of Kandor. That's the kind of stuff I hated about Superman. Super Dog, the bottle city of Kandor, and and the ring. Now I love that stuff. It's
Superman Red, Superman Blue. That was a classic.
We have a balance of CO2, and if we die, we out of balance. Absolutely. Spoiler: in the series final of CW Superman and Lois, 4th season, Superman does indeed supercharge himself on the sun and to win the last battle. Go. I was going to say this, like Krypton. Oh, we got Brian in there. Brian, let me just finish this part. I'll introduce you.
What up, fellas?
Like Superboy, like if Lois and again, I don't know if this is my headcanon or what happened in the comics. Sometimes I, get them indistinct. But if Lois and Superman had a kid, we'll call him Super Kid, that kid would be half human, half Kryptonian. But I think over time, the radiation charging would make him as equal. It would take him longer to catch up to a normal Kryptonian, but then he would become more powerful than an average Kryptonian if he bathed in. Does that make sense? I don't know if that's true or not.
I just keep thinking of the Super Sons from the 70s of Bob Haney, the crazy hippie stories.
Yep. Kryptonians. Yeah, the radiation affects their. So, I also have a fan theory of why. What's his name? Alec Guinness is an old man Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then what's his name who played Obi-Wan in the other movies? Why can't I think of that actor's name?
Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, why Ewan McGregor still young and handsome? Because Ewan McGregor went to Tatooine. Tatooine has 2 sons, and that harsh radiation aged him into Alec Guinness. How's that?
Sun damage will do it, especially if he's not using any sunscreen whatsoever.
He didn't bring Imperial sunblock on that world.
He's not moisturizing on
blue milk, right? There was no. I didn't see Ian McGregor drinking the blue milk that protects him from the harsh environment of
right. Or coconut oil. That's why. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer. I mean, we generally look a lot younger than we actually are. Yeah. But part of that is moisturizing.
Moisturize. You got to moisturize there, Ian.
Moisturize.
Moisturize, Ian. Or you're going to turn into Alec Guinness. John, you're essentially explaining John Kent and Superman. Okay, good. Okay, so maybe I did read it. Burn made kryptonite toxic to humans. Also, yes, it's radiation after all. Yeah, it caused Lex Luthor to lose his finger, which they kind of retroactively forgot about. I think you and I are the only ones who up to like. I like Burn's run, but I also have grown to like Art is here. Okay, how you doing?
What's up?
Yeah, good. Thanks. How's yourself?
How you doing?
I wore the wrong shirt.
So we got Brian. Why don't you introduce yourself, and then RR he'll introduce himself since you showed up first.
Pleasure to meet you. Hey, what's up? I'm Brian, author of Six Gun Gorilla and the upcoming Blood Moon Stomp, which I just found out has got a mainstream publisher. Is going to be in bookstores, like brick and mortar bookstores, in like 2026.
Are they going to exist in 2026? That's the question.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, I mean, haven't you been to like a Barnes and Nobles and seen the row after row after row after row of manga?
Yeah. I did. My wife and I went to a bookstore last week. We do what we call 80s Day. We go to the bookstore, then we go to the mall and have food at the food court. The only thing that's missing is hairspray and Cavaricci jeans. Other than we go to the
acid wash. Don't forget acid wash.
Leg warmers.
Yeah,
leg warmers.
But yeah, good for you, man. Good for you. Six Gun Gorilla was great. I absolutely loved that book. It was so good.
Thank you so much, man. It means so much to me when to hear you say that.
Yeah.
That never gets old.
Logic left again. I hope you
know.
I hope I.
Oh no! I was looking forward to talking to him in person.
He'll come back. I think he's having internet problems. Logic, come on back. Wow.
Good to see you again, Marcus.
Hey, there you go. Hey, Brian.
All right, so
there he is.
Do you want to introduce yourself, and then I think we'll get into the main
I'm not that important, really. I'm just some random guy who lives in the southern hemisphere. My claim to fame was being in a Hobbit movie for 7 seconds. I'll show you something interesting, right? So what I'm wearing is actually a rugby jersey. So this year, the Super Rugby, which is the competition between New Zealand and Australia, has got a deal with, I guess, Marvel licensing. So our local team are the Hurricanes, if you can see that. But they decided for their kit this year, with their Marvel license, they would go with Captain America. So I had to get one. So I'm a huge rugby fan, just massive rugby fan.
That's cool.
And also huge fan of Captain America. So it's a very nice combination when your two main interests align like that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So very nice. Yeah, I don't need an introduction, really, John. I'm nobody special. I'm just me.
Everybody's somebody special.
That's funny that Captain America is so popular outside of the United States. You know what I mean?
Really, yeah, absolutely.
Do you think Captain Korea would be big here? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think
depends who played him in the film.
Yeah, and also I think one of the things that we love about Captain America is that he's corny and that he is like a relic from the past. Like that's one of the things that disappointed me about the Captain America movie, although it's very good, right? Is that, and actually the Albert Pyun movie actually kind of got right, was the fact that he's this relic out of the past that's in the present that's very much just out of place, right? That he's a golden age character in the modern era. And I wish there had been at least one scene in the Captain America, the First Avenger, and they could have done it easily, where he goes running off in that ridiculous costume and, fights Hydra, right? They could have had them in that costume just for that one scene in that movie.
Can I respond to that a little bit? I just like to respond to what you said. I mean, because I love the Captain America films, and I grew up. So I'm from Wales originally. Spent a lot of my youth in Canada, and I grew up not liking Captain America as a character until the Mark Gruenwald run, which I really enjoyed. Right? Didn't really like Cap as a character, but the films sort of turned me around. And I think the central conceit of Captain America as a film character, and I'm not talking about Red Brown, although Red Brown was great. But the Chris Evans Captain America, the central conceit is this: that we can learn something from the past, that we can learn something from him. Because maybe he has outdated ideas, outdated morals, but those morals may be from a past time, but they're still relevant. So I think that's something that comes through in the Captain America films. So I rewatched the Avengers yesterday, and comes through in a big way in that one.
Yeah. Very much so, because it's very sad and tragic. Because I've had people tell me, because I'm like very modern in many respects, but I'm also old school and old-fashioned.
What's that like? What's that like?
Well, it's like what you want to do is it's like you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? You want to move forward and progress as a species, as a society, but you don't want to get rid of the good old things, right?
Indeed.
And like I said, I had a girlfriend once who told me, one of the things I love about you is that you believe in all these like old-fashioned ideas like loyalty and justice.
You had a girlfriend? That's so gay.
Yeah.
That is so gay.
John using the word unironically.
This is my first girlfriend. And she was the B&M editor for a major men's magazine.
This is the Gen X stream. Yeah, you could get away with saying that.
But
sorry, mate. Go ahead.
I was almost offended. I was just like, "What do you mean? Like, oh, one of the things I love about you is that you believe in these old-fashioned ideas of honor and justice." And I'm just like, really? Like, those aren't old-fashioned ideals. Those are eternal ideals. That these are things that don't age, that there are certain things that are just eternal, and that don't turn bad like milk. You know what I mean? They don't have an expiration date on them.
Eric DeClaffo is absolutely right. We're spinning out of control. I like to spin out of control, but let's focus now.
Yeah. I can segue us back to Kryptonians.
Yes.
You ready?
Yes.
All right. So one of the ways that Superman will always be better than Viltrumites is that Superman is not meant to be a relatable character. Superman is not relatable. He's aspirational. Superman is the person who's better than our best selves, but the person that we would aim to be like, right? So, which brings us nicely along to Viltrumites.
I completely agree. He's aspirational.
Right. And
right. Because look, most people with that kind of power, what would they use it for? They would use it for themselves. That's where you get supervillains, right?
All people with that kind of power. That's what makes Superman super. Is he has a power, only uses it for good for others.
Yes. That's what makes exactly. That's what I always say.
I don't think anybody would say that the Viltrumites are supposed to be aspirational. Like the Viltrumites are Kryptonians without the honor and actually Superman, because there are bad Kryptonians.
Well, they're actually evil, I would say. And one of the things that's interesting I find about the Viltrumites is that they're incredibly powerful. They're practically immortal, but the race is also dying. Right? And I haven't read the comics, so I don't know what that's about. But when I heard that in the second season, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So in a sense, they've become a biological dead end. Right?
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
Well, that's why they mate with species throughout the galaxy, which is why Mark's younger brother, Oliver, is such an important character. I think that's what John was going to jump on.
I was going to say, the fact that they're dying out leads us to one of the more shocking things that I hinted at, but I'm not going to spoil.
I
Invincible.
want to say how
Oh,
did Kirk
spoil,
name
spoil.
all those characters out of people in my family. Mark, I have a son named Nolan, I have a cat named Oliver. What is going on here?
Robert Kirkman sport. Yeah, he has a Viltrumite in season 3 called Extreme Kelligrew. That's going to be.
He's got a drone outside your window.
Yeah, Brian, you didn't. I'm extreme now.
Extreme.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But also,
it's getting legendary.
So you're like parachuting, you're like skiing off of cliffs with a parachute?
No, we were drawing Prophet with on the studio with Dan Panosian, and he was about to leave. I guess he's a Facebook friend or an Instagram friend with Don, and he's a super nice guy, and he inked my friend back in the day. So like we're talking, and I showed him my thing. He goes, you should have been hired for Extreme way back then, or something to that effect. You should have been an Extreme artist. And I'm like, oh, really? You're kidding me?
That's pretty bad.
They posted the YouTube all over the place, so now I put Extreme in my name.
Freddie Mercury's.
That's how you know they're bad.
The Viltrumites dying off is a big part of the story, and when I compared them to Spartans, I started to think, is this something that Kirkman also thought of? Because if you read the history of ancient Greece, the Spartans were the great warriors, the feared ones, but they were also very rigid. Their society was very ordered and rigid, to the point Alexander the Great never conquered Sparta. He didn't have to. By the time Alexander the Great made it to Sparta, he was like, this is it.
They were also very gay. That's like one of the things that a lot of people miss, is that like.
So was Alexander.
As a Spartan man, when you married, you were doing it for like queen and country, right? And when they would set you up with your bride, they would like cut her hair very short and everything, and dress her up to look as much like a dude as possible, and be like, okay, dude, you got to take one for the team.
And I heard stories.
It's true.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's quite a tangent.
They were,
The
Spartans were also at war so much that they had a slave, not a race, because they were Greeks. What were they called? The Heliots? That they would declare war on them every year ceremonially, just so they could kill the troublemakers. Like the Spartans were religious, and they believed if we just kill these people, we're murderers. But if we declare war on them, then it's fine. But every year they would call the Heliots out of their society. But the thing is, the Spartans were gone so much that the Spartan women were breeding with the Heliots, and the Spartans, they were dying out. So I wonder if Kirkman, I never thought of it until we started talking about. So the Viltrumites, they're not known as invaders. They don't have great technology. Like they're not even great with like philosophy and everything. Like, why would they develop all this technology when their bodies provide them with everything they need? They don't need submarines. They could just go in the ocean. They don't need spaceships. They could just fly. They don't even need great agriculture. They could probably, I'm spinning maybe, but they could probably eat like horrible food and their body just digest it because you know what I mean?
Okay,
So is that
they could have bad carbs.
That's true. Their bodies can eat practically any food in the galaxy because of their powerful DNA. However,
even McDonald's,
because especially McDonald's, but because they live for so long, the Viltrumites do have a very advanced technology. They have very advanced agricultural, very advanced scientific. They do have ships. They have advanced technology. The only thing they don't have are weapons, because they are the weapons. But they have every other trapping of a highly advanced technological society.
And they probably
they just don't need it.
They would probably also, if a Viltrumite showed up with a laser cannon, they'd be like, dude, what are you doing?
You brought a weapon? You brought a weapon to a fight?
What's wrong with your fist, you wuss?
Exactly.
What was the virus called, though? Logic may know. What was the virus called that diminished their powers, which is why conquest has a prosthetic arm and is missing an eye. There's
Yes,
there's a virus.
Okay, I believe it was called the Legacy virus, if memory serves. And the way that that came about was there was one Viltrumite. He killed the Viltrumite king, and then he left Viltrum. He went to a planet and he donated his blood because he knew the only virus that could kill a Viltrumite was a virus that was created from Viltrumite DNA.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. I completely forgot about the virus, but you're right. Why else would Conquest have a prosthetic arm? You know?
Because
Well,
that's
also
the reason why
Yeah.
there's only. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, they can regenerate. They have an incredible healing factor. Like Conquest regenerates literally from having his face smashed in, but the eye that he lost to the virus can't regenerate. It like has a permanent effect on him. Like he can't grow his arm back because it's a permanent injury. But every other injury he can regenerate from.
There was one fight. I think it was the first fight with Conquest in the comics where Mark Grayson was beaten so bad that he was just laid out, left for dead in the field, and his body just absorbed whatever nutrients it needed to repair himself. Like, so even burying them, you're just basically surrounding them with, nutrients. I thought that was so
badass.
Cool. That is
badass.
What's that?
You can dump them in lava.
I'm sorry, you both talking at the same time.
I'm sorry.
What were you saying?
No, I'm sorry. No, I was saying that's why I'm saying Kirkman built a better Kryptonian. It's like he took everything about Kryptonians and then he took it to a logical conclusion that actually makes more sense. And
the only issue I have with you, Logic, is he built a better Kryptonian, but did he build a better character? That's for the time to decide.
Well, for me,
minus super senses.
That's fair.
Well, for me,
heat vision.
Well, for me,
well,
like the thing
they don't have.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Logic. I'm sorry.
No. Please, go ahead.
It was me. I interjected. Sorry, Logic. Go ahead.
So I have a tendency to kind of like step on people sometimes. So forgive me.
We all do that. No, it's normal.
It's fine. No, Brian. It's fine. Go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Just real quick. To me, what really drew me to that first season of Invincible was that last episode, right, where you really see that concept of Omni-Man being the dark side of Superman, something that you saw little flashes of in movies like The Terminator, right, where you have like this indestructible character. Right. And you think to yourself, if you're a horror guy like me, you think worst case scenario and you're just like, well, what could somebody like that do to the human body? And the scene that got me that I thought was absolutely brilliant on a horror level, because it's the most horrific thing I've seen in the series so far.
Subway.
Is where he's just holding.
Oh, we lost Brian. What happened in that scene?
Yeah.
By the back of his head.
Brian,
it's
robot out. So can you repeat that? The last thing you said was Subway?
Yeah.
It's the Subway scene.
Right, where he's holding Mark by the back of his head, right? And first of all, he's acting exactly like an abusive parent. Why are you making me do this? Right? He's holding him by the back of the head because he's trying to like show him like human life is just
nice day for it.
Right? And he's just holding him by the back of the head, and there's an
maybe
train, and the train is just splitting across his body, and human bodies are splattering against his body, and he just sees the faces of these people coming at him, and they're just exploding. It's just brilliant. It's a brilliant piece of horror. You know, it's Superman turned into a nightmare. I mean, James Gunn did something like that with Brightburn, right? Where Superman is basically sent to Earth as part of a invasion, which is interesting because I'm just about to finish this. I don't know if you guys have ever read this novel before.
No, I've never heard of it.
It's by John Wyndham. Well, you've heard of the movie that's based on it. It's called The Midwich Cuckoos.
Okay.
Yeah. Village of the Damned.
Village of the Damned. right? Where I don't know if you fellas have seen this, but basically what happens in the
Christopher
novel,
Reeve's last film.
right? There's the John Carpenter remake. Don't watch that. Watch the original. It's much better.
Fair play.
The John Carpenter remake is just anemic and bloodless. It has Christopher Reeve in it, which is cool, but it's passable, right?
Kirstie Alley.
Yeah, looking pretty damn hot.
Let's Brian finish up so we can get back to the Viltrumites.
Sorry, Brian.
Okay. So what happens is there's a village, a sleepy Cornish village, and one day everybody falls asleep. Everybody just boom, right? Not just every person, every living thing. And what they discover is that there's a radius around the town where if you cross a particular line, boom, you're losing consciousness. If they drag you back with like a fishhook or something, you regain consciousness. And this lasts for about a day. And when it lifts, every woman of childbearing age is now pregnant. And they all give birth to these children, and they kind of have golden eyes, blonde hair, and a skin that seems to sort of shimmer. And they are kind of like a colony being. In the movies,
Hive mind.
Right, a hive mind. In the novel, it's actually two hive minds. That there's the males and the females, each are their own hive mind. But in the movies, which makes sense for the sake of simplicity, it's one hive mind. And they can control people with thought. And they have a conversation with one of the humans, because they're not biologically related to their mothers at all, right? They were just literally turned into these women were just literally turned into incubators for an invading race, right? And so their power is telepathy and the ability to control people's actions. So when the villagers come to, with their pitchforks and their torches, they just make them kill each other, right? And they always go overboard, right? It's never just like I would be like, why can't you just make them take off all their clothes and ballroom dance in the middle of the street, right?
Let's get back to Viltrumites, though.
Okay.
It's a great movie. It's one of the first scary movies that gave me nightmares as a kid.
It's awesome.
And my father said, I'll never forget. He said, we're never watching this again. It disturbed him that much.
Oh, my mother hated it.
He didn't like that either. That's
Great author, though, John Wyndham.
Creepy movie.
Great author.
But
His works have been forgotten, sadly.
I know he's coming back.
So now we'll get to
All right.
the actual fight. Now, this, I think, more than any other fight, needs ground rules.
Yes.
So because there's so many variables. So are we talking like the greatest of the Viltrumites versus Superman? Are we talking about
No.
Viltrumite versus the average Kryptonian? And then hold on, we have to get to the environment. Because if you throw a Viltrumite on Krypton, they're just humans on Krypton, right? Like, is anybody know, like, the average Krypton, like, could Jor-El lift a truck or anything, or is he just a regular guy on Krypton?
Oh yeah, well, you have to assume that they're on like level playing ground, right? That they're on the moon or that they're in a desert.
So they got to get. So let's say like General Zod versus
that's what I was going to say. Not Superman, Zod.
Right. I'm trying purposely to avoid Superman because Superman brings his own.
Kryptonians.
Yeah, Zod against Thrag.
Right, so you want a Kryptonian who really knows how to fight, like a warrior.
So General Zod versus like Thrag.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
And where are they fighting? Mars. Okay, so there you go. So I don't even think you need to come up with the scenario. These two guys are just going to fight.
So
it's like getting two nasty pit bulls on a chain, and then you just drop the chain, and these guys are going to want to. They want to fight.
Okay.
So logic. Let's start with you, because since you came up with this topic. Rest in peace, Mars. Mars loses. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, you said General Zod versus Grand Regent Thrag. Now, Grand Regent Thrag was genetically bred to be the strongest Viltrumite ever. Fine. General Zod is not stronger than Superman. He has never been stronger than Superman because Kryptonians, when exposed to a yellow sun, they take a while for their powers to even activate. And then even when they activate, they're still not as strong as Superman because he's been living under a yellow sun for several decades. However, Superman does not know how to fight. General Zod is a hand-to-hand combatant. Okay, so Grand Regent Thrag is a hand-to-hand combatant. General Zod is a hand-to-hand combatant. However, as the strongest Viltrumite ever, I don't see where it's even a close fight because Grand Regent Thrag would be far stronger. Also, there's also something that I need a definitive answer. Do Kryptonians do they hold their breath in space? Or are they just a natural space
Oh, we always
race where
wondered
they have
that.
their powers? How does that
Depends.
work?
Depends on the writer.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay.
Laura is correct.
Enough said.
I remember during the
Enough said.
Jerry Ordway run that Superman actually brought a breathing apparatus in space, and he basically said it's there because he needs to take one breath a week.
That was in the
Okay.
series too, the Bruce Timm series of
Yeah,
the
it was.
series.
All right,
But
on that point, Viltrumites need one breath for every 3 weeks. Just saying.
Oh, cardio. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about endurance. Right, because there could be a rope-a-dope happening.
They have more
Viltrumites
endurance.
do have psychic power. They can communicate with each other in space through telepathy.
That's
I don't need to
not
explain the rope-a-dope to you.
true. They had implants.
They have implants?
They don't have telepathy. Right. They had
Okay.
comm implants.
Okay, then I retract my statement. I thought they were speaking because then how did they give Mark an implant? I don't remember Mark ever getting an implant.
Yes, he got his from Alan the alien.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, I stand corrected. See?
No worries.
Dylan was asking how does it feel to be wrong? It feels exactly like that. That day, ladies and gentlemen. You were watching here earlier today.
Hey, sometimes it feels good to be wrong, especially when you're predicting like horrible.
I hate you all, and I hope you all die.
I knew it.
Oh, and John, just real quick, I dropped a link in the private chat, which you're gonna find pretty. Amusing.
Oh yeah, I put in the public chat, not even asking what it was. It better not be porn. That's all.
It's safe. No. It's a funny little tune that somebody made where it's Omni-Man versus Superman, and Homelander is there, but they basically treat him like a bitch.
Oh,
and
we all agree that Homelander gets destroyed right away.
Yes,
Homelander does not have a chance.
Yeah, no, he's not even in this.
Everybody loves Alan. Everybody loves.
Oh
Alan.
yeah, he's a great character.
There's something about Alan that everybody likes. Yeah. I agree. So Logic brings up a point that I absolutely agree with. That General Zod shows up in the Man of Steel movie and just gives Superman the fight. Like, okay, yeah, he's a better combatant. He's probably better at strategy. He's more mature, but Superman spent his lifetime learning how to use these abilities, and General Zod had them for like 8 seconds. Superman should have mopped the floor with General Zod in that movie. Anybody agree, disagree?
Disagree.
I disagree.
I kind of disagree because I think there's a situational factor, which is that Zod is extremely angry and also goes on a suicidal rage at the end.
He's got a death wish. He wants to die at the end of the film.
When he dies,
he hasn't been soaking in the radiation. Superman Clark Kent had literally 30 years of radiation. Zod has what, 4 days?
But he also Superman just started.
But General Zod was raised from birth to be a hand-to-hand combatant. Superman does not know how to fight. He has his speed. He has his strength.
Okay, so
an MMA fighter too, ever in his life.
That's why Feora manhandles him. Like that. I'll tell you what. People are gonna. There's a new Superman film coming out, but I tell you what. The battle in Smallville in Man of Steel, I'm going to put against any superhero battle in any film ever because it has a story within the story. Yes. It has an ebb and flow. There's a point at which the other Kryptonians are kicking Superman's arse, and then he uses the fact that he has heat vision, they don't. The fact that he has flight and they don't. He knows his powers better to get an advantage. He is stronger than they are, but Feora's a much better fighter.
So let me
The
ask you
giant
this,
yeah.
They're trained
Logic,
killers.
this is
Whereas
the
Henry
Yeah.
Cavill is way
Whereas
more handsome.
Clark
everybody,
has never
everybody,
been in a
everybody.
fight.
Okay.
Logic. This question goes directly to you then. Okay. I'm trying to think who is the best MMA fighter right now. Does anybody? Okay, let's say Mike Tyson. Okay, Mike Tyson. He's been raised since a kid to be a fighter. He fights Superman. Who's winning?
Well, with his
like
power,
in a
Superman.
fight?
No
Right.
powers, Mike Tyson.
Right. Superman's going to
Muhammad,
right? Because
Muhammad Ali beat Superman.
guys,
Clark would be eating dirt.
I'm asking Logic.
Sorry.
Because he said General Zod is raised to be a fighter. But I'm saying General Zod shouldn't have that power level yet. It doesn't matter. Mike Tyson's legitimately a better fighter than Superman, but Superman's going to kick Mike Tyson. They're on different scales, you know. So,
Well, yeah, he'd break his fist.
Right. He would break his fist. So I'm saying that Superman, as a lousy hand-to-hand fighter, should beat General Zod in the Man of Steel movies because he only had his powers for 25 hours. You know what I mean? He doesn't know how to use them yet, and he physically doesn't have the radiation buildup. Because Kryptonians get stronger over time, soaking up radiation.
You have to keep one thing in mind, though, right? Clark has grown up since his powers kicked in, walking around this. You might remember this line from like the last episode of Justice League.
Cardboard.
Unlimited.
The world made of cardboard.
I've been walking around in a world made out of cardboard. Right? He's never been in a fight. Now, if you've never been in a fight before, or if you've never done martial arts or sparred, you don't know what it's like that first time that somebody hits you.
Right. But
where
Mike Tyson can't physically do that.
Like rings your bell.
I don't care how trained Mike Tyson is. If he punches Clark Kent, nothing's going to happen.
Muhammad Ali kicks Superman's ass.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
Okay. But Brian, the mountain would beat Conor McGregor, yeah?
I would think.
Yeah.
Because you're just talking about somebody that's just, literally just.
Like, the truth is, the 110-pound woman would beat them all.
At the same time.
Right.
At the same time.
If Kathleen Kennedy made the film, yeah.
Yeah. Daisy Riley, not Ray. Daisy Riley would beat them all. Yeah. And that's what Mary Sue is all about. My comment. Actually, poor Mary Sue. The things that woman is going to go through, such a shame.
Oh, yes.
That's my character, Brian. Mary Sue, she's in her.
Yeah, I know.
So Logic. So okay. So I didn't realize when I said General Thrag that he was supposed to be like the mightiest of all the Viltrumites. So in that case, I got to say, he probably does. So let's just make up Philip the Viltrumite versus Roger the Kryptonian.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And they're the average of their species, and they meet on Mars and they fight. You know what I mean? We don't have any preconceived, except for general information. We know that Viltrumites are trained to be warriors, and Kryptonians aren't. So who do you think goes with that fight?
It comes down to my answer remains the same. It's going to be a Viltrumite. Because Viltrumites are trained warriors from birth. I understand, again, a Kryptonian only has powers under a yellow sun. Okay, so you said Mars, fine. Yellow sun, great. But
I just did it so we can't hurt any poor Iceland.
Okay, fine, great. All right, Mars, yellow sun, that's great. But again, Kryptonians are not trained fighters. Even Superman is not a hand-to-hand combatant. Okay?
Zod is the only one that I could think of offhand.
General Zod and also Feora. But even the average Viltrumite, and the only thing that makes an average Viltrumite average is his physical strength compared to other Viltrumites. They view each other by one thing and one thing only: physical strength. That is literally the only thing that they judge that their class structure is: how physically strong you are. Your fighting skills are your fighting skills. It's, can you hit harder? Can you do more damage with each hit? Do you have more endurance when you go against stronger and tougher
I
opponents.
got to ask you this because
Therefore,
your memory of this. It sounds like you read the series more recently than I. I read it monthly as it came out, and I haven't reread it. Are the Viltrumites
Okay.
as fast as you know? Because Superman is almost as fast as the Flash. You know, so
When the plot lets him be.
I know I hate that. I hate
Okay.
when the writer says it. You know, God, that drives me nuts.
all I'm
But the
saying,
average is the average Vilt. Now I can't even pronounce words anymore. Is the average Viltrumite as quick as the average Kryptonian?
it depends because the more physically stronger a Viltrumite is, the physically faster he is. A stronger
I
Viltrumite
know when it
can
comes to
fly
flying,
and move faster.
because Viltrumites
Yes,
have to
they-
fly faster than the speed of light, otherwise they just never get here. You know, but you know, I'm talking like reaction speed, stuff like that. I also like to say that Old Dirty Fatty is correct. My vote goes to the obese black lesbian with the shaven.
Oh, without the
Every time.
stare, just that look.
If anybody's got Under a Black Sun by Oprel, she's gonna defeat those You did not just say that to a Kryptonian black woman. You better keep your mouth quiet because a Kryptonian black woman is speaking. There you go.
Oh my God.
I like Flash. Yes, I subscribe to the John Byrne philosophy that where the specialist has to be the best.
Yes. And also Superman originally, remember,
Oh, you could
he
actually
couldn't even fly. He could only jump, right? Leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Gonna jump off.
Right. Because
So
he leaps, right.
That's Mel's.
So I'm thinking, you know, there was a couple of these clobbering times where I literally changed my mind in the middle of the fights. You know, this guy makes a good point. This guy's winning. This guy,
Well,
but is it fair to say Superman beats any one-on-one? Superman beats any Viltrumite.
Yeah.
That's just Superman. So that's why I
I'd
threw
say
Superman
most.
out.
Yeah.
But
I would
say
would
one-on-one,
say
the average Viltrumite beats the average Kryptonian.
I could see that. I could see it. And one of the reasons why Superman won because everything's created off the Superman, even the Viltrumites.
Right. I do.
Exactly.
I
He's the
do.
original, right?
Yeah,
I do accept that a lot.
That's the thing about Superman.
Yeah. He's the OG.
Right. Like,
he
but
is.
Yeah.
And
But also he has the heart, right? Because, you know, if you're a romantic, and I think most of us are, right? If we love this kind of storytelling, is that he's got that spirit, right?
Right.
Right. Like we were saying, talking about before. What is it that makes him super? It's a spirit. It's the fact that he has all this power and he just uses it
And that's what they're missing in all these Superman movies they've made recently that they got right in 1978 of all time.
I love that movie.
like, not to sound religious, but when it comes to Superman, like, you know, the divine mystery, Jesus was fully God and fully man.
Yeah.
Superman to me has to be fully super and fully man.
Yes.
If you focus on one or the other,
Yes.
you miss up on Superman.
Right. Whereas the Viltrumites, they've lost any humanity that they had, right? Although Omni-Man seems to be finding his, right? Like he has a face turn, which was like completely unexpected in season 2 of the series.
Oh, they showed that.
A billion issues.
Yeah.
If you read the Invincible comics toward the end of the run, after Omni-Man and after Dirac dies and Mark becomes emperor of the Viltrum Empire, 1,000 or 2,000 years after all those events, the Viltrumites, Mark led them back towards having humanity, where they became kind. They became good people. In fact, bringing it back to 2,000 years earlier, which would be current era Earth, the Viltrumites ended up living on Earth. Grand Regent Thrag stayed on his flagship. The Viltrumites who were physically living on Earth, being around humans and having actual human type relations, they became humanized. Because on Viltrum, they never had that.
That's one of the reasons why
like
I said what I said earlier is that the Viltrumites kind of take the best of the species that they breed with or whatever. Like they took the best of humanity, which is kindness and whatever, the word you mean, but
that's fair. That's fair. That's very fair.
Compassion, empathy, love.
Yes.
I really love Superman when he couldn't save Margot and got enraged in the first movie. Yeah, I do like when Superman gets outraged. I do like when Superman, like, he feels like we can also, like, Superman has to feel powerless every once in a while. Otherwise, he's like,
well, that great Superman annual that Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons did.
Yeah,
For the man who has everything.
The man has, yeah.
But what I like about
beautifully adapted too in the Justice League Unlimited series.
Yes, it was. I watched that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well said.
What I like about Superman, though, is even in those moments where he is fully angry, he still does the right thing. You know,
yes, always.
And that's why whenever on this show we talk about Superman, we end up talking about Captain America. Captain America doesn't have the powers, but they meet at that moralistic, that pureness of character.
When I was a little kid, Captain America was always one of my favorite characters, and I remember thinking sometimes as a little kid, well, I can't do that because Captain America wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
right. No, I agree.
My father used to joke that, John, you read too many comic books. You know, you think the world is run by superheroes and stuff. I'm like, well,
No, that's the thing.
Omnipope B says, what about pre-crisis Superman? I think nobody beats pre-crisis Superman.
No. Nobody. Silver Age Superman? Not a chance.
Pre-crisis Superman was so powerful that they couldn't write stories about doing anything.
Yes. And remember, we're talking about a guy. Right. And originally, he couldn't even fly. He could just jump.
Yeah,
he could
a lot of his powers came during the radio show.
Freight train. He couldn't, just disappear like the Flash.
The radio show created a lot of his powers. It wasn't just the comics.
Yeah.
But he could survive anything. And so you have all these wonderfully drawn comics where why is he standing there? Because he can't fight anything. He had to go to a planet with Red Sun. He'd have to figure something out. Lois Lane had to try to figure his identity. That's why the story's the way they were.
And that's what One Punch Man is about as a take on Superman, right? Where he's just bored. He's just bored because it's just whenever he has a fight, it's not a fight.
Right.
I had Sandy Peterson on my channel. For those of you who don't know, Sandy Peterson is like instrumental. He was one of the designers for the game Doom. He created the game Call of Cthulhu.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he's like a famous dungeon master. He played a lot of dungeons.
Wow.
The original Chaosium game, yeah.
I remember when he was on.
He was telling a story that he had a player that was like a total munchkin. A munchkin is a kid who just wants to use all the rules to his advantage. He doesn't care about character. He doesn't care about story. He just wants to build the best character. So he was like, do you allow fantasy races? Can I be any race? And yeah, you can. He goes, okay, I want to be a gold dragon. And Sandy right away knew what this guy was doing. He goes, okay, you're a gold dragon. And then they stopped playing. He goes, a gold dragon could cast a wish once a day. Can I cast it on myself? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. So, okay, I wish for all the gold on the world. Okay, you have it. And then he's like, okay, I wish for all the magic items. He goes, okay, you have all the magic items. And then he's like, after about 3 or 4 more wishes, the guy was like, I'm going to make up a new character. Because he realized it was boring.
It's like that episode of The Twilight Zone. Remember where this gangster gets murdered and he goes to what he thinks is heaven and he's getting girls real easy. Every time he gambles, he wins. And finally, he's telling what he thinks is an angel, hey, I want to go to the other place, right? This place sucks. And the guy says, whatever made you think that you were in heaven?
Yeah.
Wow. I remember that one, right.
Remember that?
George Bernard Shaw. There are 2 great tragedies in life. One is not getting what you want, and the other one is getting it.
Is getting it.
Yeah.
Yes. You, sir, are a learned man.
I heard
No, I watched too much Frasier.
We used to call the power gamers in the 80s. Yeah, I don't know where the term Munchkin came from, but they built a whole card game called Munchkin on this concept. And everybody hates the game Munchkin. I still like it. It's fun. It's a fun game if you know what you're playing with.
I never played it, and I've been DMing for like 40 years.
I never played that, but I played Battle Ball.
Yep.
Oh, I never played it. Heard of it.
I did it week on my channel.
Yeah,
So-
I was freaking out. I used to play all the time with the kids. We had that. I don't know. Somebody might still have it. I don't think I do.
It's a fun game.
What's that Steve
It is a
Jackson
fun
game?
game.
But anyway, back to I'll say this about focus back to Superman. I would say that a Viltrumite beats Golden Age Superman.
Oh, easy.
But I would say Silver Age Superman almost beat the entire planet of Viltrumites. Silver Age Superman is
I would think so.
OP. Now,
Silver Age Superman would take Mars and just break it over the Viltrumites.
right? Yeah, I mean, literally, Silver Age Superman can move planets, and I've never seen a Viltrumite capable of a feat like that.
No.
Now,
Hang on, you're talking about what about Superboy Prime or Superman Prime?
who cares? He punches reality.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember those. I read those.
I think Superman Prime beats any Viltrumite, Thrag included.
But modern Superman versus Viltrumite, that's a fun fight. I do think modern Superman still beats it.
So how strong now in the DC? Who reads Superman today? Like 2025 Superman.
Somebody just said something about Dan Slott's Superman. I believe that Dan Slott probably writes a good Superman. Dan Slott is a jerk, but he's also a good writer.
I agree. Yeah, Kerbusiek is like that. There's a bunch of people. Matt Fraction.
Mark Wade. Well, Wade doesn't write. He doesn't write as well as he used to.
No. His Captain America run was pretty tight, but like his recent Daredevil run, not so much.
Well, Black Adam against Viltrumites.
Superman.
What was
I
that?
don't
Can I ask you guys a question?
What do you say?
Yeah.
I said, can I ask you guys a question? Okay. I am a classic Marvel guy, so I am not in depth on Superman's ages and the power levels. I will say this: in one of the Invincible comics, three Viltrumites flew into the planet Viltrum and they destroyed the planet. Now, all three of them put together were not as strong as Grand Regent Thrag. Now, the only reason I bring that up is Marcus said that Silver Age Superman could take the planet Mars and break it over a Viltrumite's head.
Absolutely.
If Grand Regent Thrag is exhibiting that kind of power level, I think that would make an equal fight, if nothing else, in terms of power level between that Silver Age Superman and Grand Regent Thrag. Plus, Grand Regent Thrag is a trained hand-to-hand combatant, where that Silver Age Superman is not. I'm just
I didn't have that information. That's
Can a Viltrumite survive being pushed into a sun?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Grand Regent Thrag and Invincible fought physically inside of a sun.
Okay, damn. That is Silver Age Superman level.
Well, again, they don't have all of that, like super breath and laser visions and stuff like that Superman had. They're
Laser vision comes in pretty handy.
It does. It's they're I as an aside, I always liked, like, in the modern age, they Superman didn't use his heat vision as much because it physically drained him. Like, I always thought, like, Superman was just filled with solar energy that powered his, and then when he shot it's like he's using his battery and it diminishes. To me, it makes sense. It gives a little bit more drama to
that makes
Superman.
sense.
Makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does. Right, because where is that energy coming from?
Right,
Where's
that is just the raw, unprocessed energy that feeds his powers. He's just expending it inefficiently, but damage. You know what I mean? So I don't. This
totally
just
makes sense.
Crazy things that I think of.
Hey, Marcus.
So how about? Okay, you're gonna ask Marcus. Go ahead.
Marcus, if you could draw Sydney Sweeney as Power Girl, if she charges up, does her rack get?
It might get bigger. Yeah, sure. But I don't think I could draw that. It would bust right out, and then we would get like
it would bust the.
I'd be kicked off of X or something. Reddit.
That is some fourth world building that I could get behind. Fourth world, whatever it is, fourth wall breaking.
Pinterest would kick me off.
I don't like Deadpool breaking the fourth wall, but Sydney's
no nudity,
so big that they emerge from my comics into the real world. I'll accept that.
And Marcus, that's not nudity. That's like, like the old Hammer horror movies where, where
You
they
know,
always have booby dresses, but you never see any
on
real
Pinterest, they take Frank Frazetta paintings and they deactivate them because of nudity. I save art supply, like art, like here's a woman or a man like going like this and they have no clothes on, like a drawing or something. Steve Rude drawing of a woman, the back of a woman, then they deactivate it. And I go like this, I say, this is art study, you morons.
Well, but social justice.
And it's ridiculous. And
Okay.
Yeah. So I get a list of
we've been
millions. That's why I go store all
well
my
over an hour about this. So
effort.
I'm going to give everybody like a window. Everybody in the So Marcus, since I was going to start with Logic, but he's having computer Oh, here he's back. So Logic, we're going to start with you. We're going to go counterclockwise around. So
Okay.
You give us your thoughts, and as you can see, I'm flip flopping back and forth on this fight, and also this more than any other depends on circumstances, So go ahead, Logic. What do you think? Give us your conclusion.
How do I sound? Do you hear me?
You not ready? What's that?
Do you hear me?
Yes,
we hear me?
Yes.
It's coming in
Okay.
loud and clear.
All right. Okay. My thoughts are this. One-on-one, Viltrumite versus a Kryptonian. I think that I stand by my original assessment. I say 8 out of 10 times, a Viltrumite is beating a Kryptonian. I think there is a greater variable for power and strength in a Viltrumite as opposed to a Kryptonian. And every Viltrumite is a trained combatant from birth. And they have a natural level of aggression, ferocity, hatred, so on and so forth. So I'd say 8 out of every 10 times, one-on-one, a Viltrumite beats any Kryptonian. As a species, as a race, Viltrumite versus Kryptonians, I have to double down on that. I think that Viltrumite beat the Kryptonians. Even if we go all the way up to Superman versus Grand Reefing Thrag. Now listen, I love Superman as much as anyone else, but being neutral, I have to give it to the Viltrumites over the Kryptonians.
Okay.
No, it's not a matter of liking. It's not a matter of who you like or
Right.
not.
RR, what do you think? What's your thoughts?
Well, I must respectfully disagree with my learned friend there, Mr. Logic's finest. I give it to the Kryptonians. One-on-one, you put Zod against Thrag, Zod wins. I'll tell you why. Zod is as capable a fighter, but he's also a complete savage. Zod was drafted into the Suicide Squad recently, but Amanda Waller got someone to put a sliver of kryptonite, like one of those little bombs, inside his head. Zod cut his own head open with his heat vision and removed it. That's the kind of animal he is. Zod also, Zod is also faster. Like I've seen nothing. I've read most of the Invincible comics, and I see nothing that shows me that a Kryptonian using the super speed to its potential is as fast as a Viltrumites are as quick. So I'm going to go on speed, heat vision, senses. I'm going to go with the Kryptonians in that one. Average. Well, like if an average non-combatant, like a civilian fights a soldier, well, the civilian's going to lose. But if you took a Kryptonian soldier against the average Viltrumite soldier, I say on an Earth environment, Kryptonian wins, just because their powers have a greater variety.
Yeah, it has to be an Earth type environment, otherwise.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're talking.
Silver Age Superman can literally pull a string of planets. Thrag has no chance against power on that level. Like the Silver Age Superman was so ridiculously powerful. Yeah. I mean, there's also other versions of Superman too. Superman 1 million, right? The Grant Morrison comics can punch a hole through time. So the Kryptonians have read the comic. It's ridiculous, but anyway. But yeah, so I'm going to go with the Kryptonians because their powers have greater variety, and if you get one that uses their powers cleverly, that they're just about unstoppable.
Okay, Brian.
So I'm on Team Krypton. That's me.
Okay, Brian, what do you think?
Okay.
If we're talking about like a Kryptonian warrior versus a Viltrumite, who are like all warriors, right?
Viltrumite warrior is redundant, yeah.
Right, but let's take your average Viltrumite warrior against your average Kryptonian warrior with, assuming that he was like raised on Earth, that he is as powerful as Superman, right? Let's say Superman with that's also a trained killer. I would have to give it to the Kryptonian for sure. But then once again, it's just like you have to specify which version of a Kryptonian, which version of Superman, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the kind of like the Superman that we have like now, or the one that we think of as sort of like, let's say like the Superman that we have in Man of Steel, which I have I don't know, almost irrational love for. I absolutely adore that movie.
Yes.
In that, it's like Superman is a guy who's literally never been in a fight, so he doesn't know what it's even like to get hit, right? Like a martial arts training, one of the things that you do is you get hit, so that when you get hit in real life, you're not going to be just completely discombobulated. You're going to have your wits about you, right? I would have to give it to the Kryptonians. Once again, you got the laser eyes. That's like, you've got a ranged attack, which the Viltrumites don't have. But once again, it's just like, and also I don't, as a caveat, I have to say, I'm only familiar with Invincible, the animated series, and not the comic books. So, I didn't know that they could potentially just like hurl planets or hurl themselves through planets. But yeah, personally, I'm going Kryptonian.
Yeah, Eric, we kind of defaulted to like not Superman. I mean, I think Superman can take out even the modern Superman. I think the modern Superman can take out any Viltrumite
for sure.
This is why we're talking like Phil Moskowitz, the Kryptonian, versus like Roger,
right?
The Viltrumite. Because
Kingdom Come Superman.
Oh yeah, man.
Marcus, what do you think?
So Ned Bernstein, the Viltrumite.
Yeah, Ned
versus Saul Harrison, the Kryptonite. Saul Harrison did work for DC. I would think the Viltrumite wins. Like just Kryptonian, just plain Viltrumite, plain Kryptonian. But if you're going to have Superman versus Omni-Man, Superman wins.
Right.
And I do think it's because, and I don't really go, we've had a lot early on, it's Clobbering time. It was always, whoever had military experience always won. Well, superhero fights really don't go that way. Mm-hmm. And I do think the development of the heat vision really, because Superman can sit there and just burn him before he even gets to him.
And keep moving, too. So, like, he can't close the distance.
Right. Yeah, well, so I think that gives him a lot. And Superman is probably faster, But again, I don't read Invincible, so maybe Omni-Man is as fast as Superman. It's hard to tell.
Right.
But that's my feeling.
Those can fight inside of a sun. And Grand Region Thrag is exponentially more powerful than Omni-Man.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Right. I mean, see, yeah.
He's exponentially stronger than Omni-Man. And again, Grand Region Thrag and every Viltrumite can fight inside of a sun. Every Viltrumite.
It's pretty badass.
I
would think Superman could fight inside the sun.
For the way I
powered up by that sun, like a solar battery.
That's fair.
Yeah, but yes, but those are some of the details, logic, finance. I don't know, so right. You would be right.
But listen, guys, I just want to give this one caveat. We all love Superman, and let's be honest, every superhero is a derivative of Superman. So
right, well, that's what it goes for. Yeah, that's right.
Even if we give 100 reasons why someone else would win and should win, we're still always going to pick Superman, even if he probably should not. So because that's the deck is so heavily stacked because we all love Superman. I mean, listen, if you tell me you don't love Superman, I think there's something wrong with you.
Yes. So there it is. There it is.
I'm going to say, well, first off, you already know, like Superman beats any one-on-one. Superman beats any Viltrumite. So now we're talking about average Kryptonian versus average Viltrumite. I do say that the average Viltrumite beats the average Kryptonian solely because of culture and upbringing and things like that, nature versus nurture kind of thing. We're talking about the average Spartan versus the average Athenian. They're both humans. They both have two arms. They both are physically limited by but the Spartan has the advantage because of culture and the way they were raised. But here I do think this. The average, like as a race, I do think Kryptonians would win because they're better scientists. Like if we could get past the we didn't listen and the Earth blew up. Like if you look at the John Byrne, and later on they said that the Kryptonians elite knew that Kryptonian was ended, and they just kept it quiet because they didn't want people to panic. Like these are mental giants. Like you don't think that they would be prepared for
they kept it. If they kept that from the populace, that would be the Kryptonian Biden.
Right. But you know what I mean? Like I do think like the Kryptonians are better scientists than the Viltrumites, where the Viltrumites, like all their science is geared towards war and destruction. And what's that?
But aren't what you're describing is effectively prep time. Because the Viltrumites have scientists. They have advanced technology. The only thing they don't have are weapons, because they are the weapons.
They are the weapon.
Right, but they got taken up. Did they know how to fight this virus? Could they fight? You know what I mean?
But that
if you're talking about a war
virus, but that virus was created by one of their own, using their own DNA, because there is no other virus in the galaxy that could hurt them. And that virus was so virulent, it killed 99% of the population of the planet Viltrum in like a week.
Well, yeah, if you're talking about like a war, for instance, between Krypton and the Viltrumites, right, then you're going to get into like technological issues where they're like, okay, well, what can hurt them? What's their weakness? What's their Achilles heel?
I don't know if they brought it in the second season but in the original comics, Nolan wrote novels telling the Earth people how to defeat Viltrumites, and it was these incredible weapons. So the Viltrumites can be defeated by technology and weapons, according to Omni-Man as a novelist. I don't know if that's in the cartoon, but like you don't think that the Kryptonians would. They had these weapons already, or they would have built these weapons, provided the Viltrumites didn't just kill them in an instant flash of major power. But I think like a war of attrition, the Kryptonians would be like, all right, we're going to make like we're going to send out people. They're going to get solar powers with these weapons, and But
well, yeah, but
I also admit that I'm biased towards Superman and Kryptonians, and I do love the Viltrumites. Yeah,
but that's the equivalent of prep time, John. I
know.
thoroughly understand what you're saying.
That's why I said in a war of attrition.
Prep time.
Right. That's why I said assuming that, like, if we have like one Kryptonian and one Viltrumite, that they just suddenly run into each other. It would be the same thing with the worlds, where suddenly boop, they're in like the same galaxy or something like that.
People that disagree with me, okay, but I'm willing to say that I'm wrong. Yes, with prep time, either one of them wins. Prep time, I always got to say that. But one-on-one, I just can't see a Kryptonian beating the average Kryptonian beating the average Viltrumite. It takes the exceptional ones to win, and Superman is the exceptional one in every case. Mon-El is the exceptional one. Even Supergirl is the exceptional one.
Hang on, Mon-El's not Kryptonian though.
He's Kryptonian by way of a colony. That's like saying, Boers aren't European.
Yeah.
He's a Daxamite, so they're like an offshoot of the Kryptonian race, right?
Right.
Different set of weaknesses.
That's like saying Mexicans don't have Spanish descent.
Right. Huh.
They came from Krypton and they went to Daxam, and And then they developed the stupidest weakness in the universe. Yeah,
I can't write with
Screw that.
because all a Viltrumite has to do is just pick up a handful of dirt and throw it at a Daxamite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, but
I bet.
then when Brainiac 5 gave Mon-El the serum that made him immune to lead, he's more powerful than Superman, which makes no sense because he spent 1,000 years in the fandom zone. But this is the future, so maybe they amped up. But whatever, you know, everybody to lead the superheroes is ultimate level power. There's a I'm forgetting, Eric. What was the name of this race? Logic. You seem to have this really under your belt. Who is it? There was a super aggressive race that fought Viltrumites. Do you remember them?
All right. That's yes and no. There was a race of animals. They are the animals that they have right, Ragnars. Ragnars are the only naturally evolved species that can hurt Viltrumites. They're animals. They're not fighters. They're animals. But yes, they're animals.
I got to
They're not
reread it.
beings.
It sounds like there's so much I forgot.
They are able to physically hurt a Viltrumite. But again, they're animals. So you know, you can always outsmart an animal. And they don't have, the funny thing is they don't have the invulnerability that a Viltrumite has, but somehow they can physically harm a Viltrumite. So I guess that's for Kirkman, that's his version of kryptonite, if you want to think of it in that manner. But so
Now, Logic.
there is that. Yes.
I always thought there was a little disconnect in the story that Nolan was writing novels to teach humans how to defeat Viltrumites, and then he goes to conquer the Earth. Like, did they ever explain that, or am I misremembering that?
When Nolan arrived on Earth, he arrived there with his mission to blend in and then eventually take over the planet. Over the decades, he became more humanized, and he started to develop love and compassion and all these human attributes. That's what led him to write those novels. And buried in those novels through allegory were weapons and animals, the Ragnars, that could actually hurt a Viltrumite.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden he did a heel turn and attacked. Like, what was it? What caused? Did he get a message from Viltrumite? Like, I'm forgetting what activated him, like a sleeper cell.
According to the story, he reached the point where he realized his time was coming near, and that even though he had a son, which he was not supposed to, and even though he fell in love and he became more human and he developed compassion and feeling and empathy, he knew that at some point the Empire would show up. So he had to fulfill his duty, because if not, he would be killed.
Okay, yeah. Because I always remember, like, later on when you see how nasty and violent he is, I was like, well, why was he writing these books? Like, did he not realize that he was doing it? You know, like,
No,
to me that was always like a minor flaw in the storytelling, and I'm sure I'm missing something, but
no, you're on it. You're on it. You're really close. As I said, after decades of being on Earth and falling in love and becoming compassionate, becoming more humanized,
You want a hand there, mate?
He decided to write the novels because, one, the novels were selling and he made money, which was his primary goal. His secondary goal was someday, in the hopes that someone would come along and read his books, decipher them, and understand that he found the Empire's greatest secret, that there are weapons out there that can actually hurt them.
okay, all right. So this is a lot tougher than I thought for the conclusion. So with just one word answers, I'm just going to go around the five of us. So Logic, you're team V, right?
Yeah, I am.
RR, what team are you? I forget.
Team K.
Your
Team K all the way.
Brian, are you still there? What's your team? Brian might. Brian might have exited. Marcus, what about you?
I think I'm Team V.
Team V? Okay. I honestly, I got to say, like, the average versus the average, I got to say Viltrumites. You know, it just feels right. And but you could argue me onto your side very, very easily. But I got to say, my gut instinct is that Kirkman made these characters, these Viltrumites, for the sole purpose of, like, yeah, they're better than Kryptonians on average. But but Superman is the exceptional man and the exceptional Kryptonite, Kryptonian. So that's the way I feel. But like you, of course, we could go with prep time. Of course, we could go with the environment changing, and of course, we could go with whatever the writer wants. But I do think that the average Viltrumite is going to beat the average Kryptonian. Obviously, with both of them have powers. But there we go. Everybody, post a V or K in the chat. Tell us what you think. And I think at this time too, what do you think we should do for next week? And I'm really enjoying these. It's Clobbering time. We never really get pissed and yell at each other because it's really not worth getting pissed and yelling at each other.
Elementals versus the 1982 X-Men.
Oh. Okay, we got some Ks. Let's see. The entire city of Kandor versus all of the Viltrumites in the universe, 50 of them. Viltrumites lose if the sun is, does anybody? I was under the impression that the Kandorians didn't have superpowers in the bottom, but that might be modern. Maybe in the Silver Age they did. I don't know. Oh yes, Eric Wapo wanted to do Silver Surfer versus Captain Atom. That's a
yeah, that's good.
Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, that's the front runner.
We haven't done two individual superheroes in quite a while.
Yeah, so we got 2 Ks versus a V. This is a tougher one than I thought. This is a tougher one than I thought. This is a good one. Thanks for suggesting this, Logic. I do agree that Viltrumites are a better Kryptonian from like a, if you want to say like a biological standpoint, like they got.
Oh, for sure.
They don't have all of the powers, but they got none of the weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to say that makes them better characters because, like, you could make Destructo Boy, who's the most powerful superhero in the universe. You can beat your character, but that doesn't make he's a good character. It's the pathos and the little details that make a good character.
Well, Destructo Boy's weakness is that he has to stop and whack off 3 times a day.
Oh, there you go.
In the middle of a fight, he just leaves.
What do you, like the bad guys go, what are you doing? And they're just like, I'm out of here. You win. Don't touch me with those hands.
Somehow I don't think that'll become a Disney Plus show anytime soon.
Oh.
I don't know why I said that, by the way.
If you vote Viltrumite, you can't go to Eric's party. You're not
invited to
Eric's party.
Oh, snap.
Team K.
No cupcakes, no M&Ms for you.
God damn. Ruthless.
So next week we'll do Silver Surfer versus Captain Atom. That's an interesting one.
Ooh.
Mm.
And then
which version of Captain Atom though?
Oh, we're doing the female
Silver Surfer.
The female Silvers. That's the only one that's important.
Oh no. There's only one version of the Silver Surfer. There's only one Silver Surfer.
Well, unless
it's
Silver Surfer, then
that's
it.
Red.
Hey, Brian, you weren't here. Who did you vote for? Kryptonians or Viltrumites?
Oh, I voted for the Kryptonians.
Okay.
But that's also with the caveat that I don't know as much as I probably should about the Viltrumites because my knowledge of the Viltrumites is limited to the first 2 seasons of the animated series and not the comic book.
We did X-Men versus Titans.
We did the original X-Men versus the original New Teen Titans before, and that one was a fun one because the Teen Titans were our powerhouse team. Like we didn't, at the beginning,
way more powerful than you think.
I didn't realize how powerful they were.
Oh yeah.
Looks like K wins in the chat 3-2, and on the panel, so 3-1. So it's a close one. Viltrumites 5, Kryptonians 4. Sounds like a Supreme Court decision.
I will John Byrne versus George Perez.
I will only invoke the Supreme Court if only the men on the court could vote.
Oh, snap.
Whoa. Whoa.
So there you go. I'm going to shut this down because I can't keep my eyes open anymore. So this was a fun one. Next week we'll do Silver Surfer versus Captain Atom. That should be interesting. As of right now, I have no idea who'd win that fight. I was going to speculate, but I hate when people speculate when it's not the show.
That's a tough one too.
I'll save my thoughts.
Yeah,
I've got some thoughts about that one.
I had to think about that one.
And remember, guys, it's an open invite. So if you're in the panel, like Eric, you can come in. You got a lot to say. You pop in, talk.
And you've been on screen before.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. Always a pleasure.
Before you go, we'll do it counterclockwise. Anybody want to throw some links out or anything like Logic? Do you have any promotions or anything you want to bring up?
The only thing I want to bring up is that, gentlemen, this was absolute fun. You were all absolute legends. I hope you all enjoy your weekends, and this was a great conversation. And Marcus, Sydney Sweeney as Power Girl. Thank you.
Yeah, 3-day weekend. How can I not enjoy it? RR, anything you want to say?
Oh, very much the same. Just great to actually share the screen with Logic for so we usually in the chat back and forth. So it's great to have a chat with you. Also, I've heard there's this independent comic going around now called Heroic Tales. I don't know if any of you have heard of it before. You're going to have to search it up. I'm not sure if it's on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, one of those things. Some character called the matriarch or the Uncle Rearch, I don't know, Ark of the Covenant. But you should check it out. Apparently, I got the first issue. It's quite good.
Issue 5.
Yeah, the creator is kind of a shitty character, but the book is excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, John. It was great. Yeah, you guys are legends.
I heard that the creator hates the fans, won't reimburse you. He misprints the book and then makes you wait 3 years between issues. That guy's a jerk.
Yeah.
Only 3 years?
And if you break your neck, he'll wish you'd like to re-break it.
So the thing is, his book is 3 years late, but it reads like it came out early. That's my new Zach.
We're not going to put that on anybody else right now.
Brian, anything you want to promote? Anything you want to say before we go?
Funmycomic.com. Go there and back Six Gun Gorilla Volume 2, The Great Silence. Everybody, I can honestly say without being braggadocious, everybody who reads that book loves it. I got original art up there. If you've never heard, if you're new to the series, we've got a tier for everybody. You can get issues 1 through 10 either as Volume 1, Volume 2 trade paperbacks, or if you're a floppy guy, and we know a lot of us are floppy guys, you can get them in floppy form too. And John, once again, thank you so much for having me on, brother. It's always a pleasure.
There's a pill for that, mate. There's a pill for that.
when you're at funmycomic.com backing the new Six Gun Gorilla, get the new Heroic Tales Volume 2. I've gotten a little sneak peek at part of it. Yeah, you hooked me up.
I forgot. Yeah, he's read the Mary Sue story.
Yes.
I will say this. I sent it to Aaron Sparrow. I really, really respect Aaron Sparrow. He's a professional. He works in comics, and he said it was good. He said it was really good.
It's excellent.
There's only one critique. He goes, John, you should have made with the monster show up a splash page. If that's my only bad thing that Aaron Sparrow could say, then I was flying. I'm so happy.
Oh, dude.
I will say, by the time Heroic Tales 5 comes out, we have to revisit Six Gun Gorilla, because I got an Old West character that I would love to have a clobbering time with Six Gun Gorilla at some point.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. And once again, congratulations on that book, mainly for making a damn good comic book.
Thank you.
And for a first comic, oh my God, I'd be like, seriously, I wouldn't, because a lot of first writers will have first, like 3 first novels, 3 first comics. If this is actually the very first thing that you ever put out right out the gate, salutations to you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
Genuinely,
I agree.
I got some. It's a perfect example of getting good, honest criticism by people who want to help, because my original script was garbage. When I look back at what I was going to put out,
all you want to do is put out the best book that you possibly can.
And the guys are like, hold on. You got to focus, and they were absolutely right. So I got to thank, listen to people who honestly have your best in mind. But Marcus, anything you want to promote? Anything you want to say before?
I'll be at the studio tomorrow. We're drawing the Max, which I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with the Max.
Max is a tough character to
I've
draw.
now decided that they're picking things up to trip me up because I beat them every week. Beat all the Image guys every week with old school.
So beat them at their own game. Suggest the Invisible Woman and hand in a blank page.
I'm the extreme artist. He didn't say that about the other. We drew, what did we draw last week? Rip Claw.
Ooh.
And this is not
awesome.
the exact,
That is awesome. And Mark,
the Rip Claw, it didn't look like looked like the Rip Claw. Just
Love the inks on that.
yeah. And Marcus is drawing a short story for me, the featuring the public eye and poinsettia. I can't wait. I I want to push people but I also don't want to push because it take the time that you need. There's no schedule as of yet. But I'm so excited. Yes,
John.
Who's
John, there is one person. There is only one person. Grand Regent Thrag and Superman. They both trained under this absolute legend, Chuck Norris.
Oh,
really? Chuck Norris? Come on now.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris first of all, right there. So I got Heroic Tales #2. It's live on Fund My Comic. It's live until July 1st, I think, and then I'm gonna keep it in demand, and then I'm gonna put it on Kickstarter, and I did well enough on Kickstarter that I'm not doing Indiegogo. I'm not happy with Indiegogo. I'll do it on, it's batting cleanup on Kickstarter. So if you're waiting for Kickstarter, I understand. But I will say this: if I may pat myself on the back, it's good. It's so much better, and it's only selling half as much, which means I'm going to print half as much, which means it's going to be harder to get, first print when I do issue 3, and everybody's talking about how good issue 2 is. And so John, don't pay the eBay prices. Back it now for $10.
Yes. And John, don't take that personally. Don't take that as a reflection on the first book, because times are tough.
Everybody's hurting right now. Yeah,
everybody's hurting.
I was
not take that person
at first. I got to admit, and then everybody was showing me their campaigns. We were looking at everybody's campaigns. It's rough out there.
It is.
I'm already anticipating word of mouth is gonna be like, yeah, this was good. I actually commissioned a second printing cover that I can't wait to reveal, but I want the second print. I want the people to be like, damn, I slept on the first printing and I didn't get it. So, but I also want people to go, that cover is so awesome that I'm getting it anyway. So yeah, I got a Matt Bauer cover. If he's still in the chat, Matt, that cover is awesome. It is so good.
Oh, he's amazing.
The creative Heroic Tales. Yeah, I get into too many fist fights. If I had Kryptonian powers, I'm beating the dog because I got more experience in hand-to-hand combat than the average bear. I challenge you to take the subway at 4:00 in the morning and these assholes playing Drake at top volume through their speaker phones. Oh my God, that is my weakness. Drake
that's your kryptonite.
It is the absolute worst music. And if you have access to the sum total of human existence and music, you choose God's plan at top volume at 4:00. I have no choice but to fight you. I'm sorry.
We understand, brother. We understand.
The win a day with Mary Sue promo. If only I could talk Martina Marcota into that, I would win, and then my wife would divorce me. But Chuck North. That's all the Chuck North I will tolerate. And then we got left. I'll see everybody next week. It's clobbering time. Yeah. I have open schedules. I didn't fill in all my slots. So next week I might be doing I bought a whole bunch of back issues. I got new comics to show off. So there we go. When I did Nobody Messed With Me, I don't know why. What, you played Drake? John doesn't like it's the worst. Why do you want to?
Isn't he Canadian? Isn't Drake from Canada?
I don't. Another reason to boycott and tariff Canada.
We should be. Drake is from Canada. We should be invading them.
Right?
Oh, wait, no.
I don't even want to go there. Let him stay in the frozen tundras and
I don't think he spends much time in Canada.
Yeah, like all successful Canadians, he comes to America.
Oh, snap!
But I better be quiet before my Canadian wife comes down and beats me.
It's make you back bacon.
But thanks a lot, everybody. It's a lot of fun.
God bless you all.
Thanks, John.
See you
Nice
all.
seeing everybody.
Silver Surfer versus Captain Adam next week.
You got
Bye-bye,
it.
everybody.